Welcome to The Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. Amid the gas crisis caused by the cyber attack, Biden warned gas stations not to take advantage of the situation for financial gain. But someone in his administration is doing otherwise. Even some liberal media are starting to find it ridiculous to call everything infrastructure. You'd probably agree what Republicans are proposing makes more sense. Iran is behind the two terrorist groups that launched attacks on Israel. Will Biden continue negotiating with Iran or stand with America's ally? There are huge irregularities that came up in the Arizona audit. Will Maricopa County be able to explain them? Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. This morning, House Republicans elected Representative Elise Stefanik of New York as their conference chair. It was a swift installment for Stefanik with a vote of 134 to 46. Speaking after the vote, Stefanik called herself a proud conservative Republican who would help lead her party to victory in the midterms next year. She thanked her colleagues and President Trump for his support, as well as voters of New York's 21st Congressional District, whom she is honored to represent. Stefanik also didn't forget to call out Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi for their radical policies that are endangering America.
First, I wanted to thank my colleagues for the opportunity to serve as the House Republican Conference Chair. I have prioritized listening to all members of our Republican Conference, and my focus is on unity because that's what the American people and that's what our voters deserve. I also want to thank this leadership team. I look forward to working with them in partnership, shoulder to shoulder, to make sure that we are fighting on behalf of hardworking Americans. I also want to thank President Trump for his support. He is a critical part of our Republican team. The American people are suffering under the far-left radical socialist policies of President Joe Biden and Speaker Nancy Pelosi. In just over 100 days, we have an economic crisis, we have a border crisis, and we have a national security crisis. The economic crisis, we see the worst jobs report in over 20 years. So I'm very excited for this opportunity. We are unified, working as one team, and the American people know that the stakes are incredibly high. We are going to fight for them each and every day against the destructive, radical, far-left socialist agenda of President Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi that's destroying America.
Colonial Pipeline ended up paying $5 million ransom to hacker group DarkSide to restore their computer network. The Biden administration's response to the gas crisis caused by the cyber attack has been disappointing. They neither helped Colonial restore the network nor provide an alternative transportation of fuel to the most affected areas. The White House said private companies in ransom situations like Colonial Pipeline sometimes just have to pay up. Well, what about not negotiating with terrorists? Biden's message to Americans was don't panic and do not get more gas that you need in the next few days. Biden also warned gas stations not to gouge prices for financial gain. He said that's what the hackers are trying to do, not us. That's not what we are. Well, it seems like not every member in Biden's administration is as noble as he is. On Tuesday, when answering questions from reporters on the gas shortages, Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm emphasized Biden's goal towards clean energy. Granholm said, if you drive an electric car, this would not be affecting you clearly. Now, this statement is highly irresponsible. Not every American can afford an electric vehicle, and not anytime soon will all Americans be driving electric cars. In a March interview with ABC, Granholm made a more outlandish comment when touting her department's upcoming green energy initiatives. Granholm said she drives a Chevy Bolt, which is an electric vehicle, and she doesn't have to buy gasoline. She has the solar panels on her house, so she drives on sunshine. Most likely, Granholm still uses electrical charging stations for her Chevy Bolt, and some of the stations are connected to a grid that's reliant on fossil fuels. But however, Granholm has her own interest to promote electric vehicles. Before her confirmation as the Department of Energy Secretary, Granholm was serving on the board of directors of Proterra with a multi-million-dollar stake. The company is, quote, a leader in the design and manufacture of zero-emission electric transit vehicles. In April, Biden participated in a virtual tour of Proterra's electric battery factory in South Carolina. During the tour, Biden vowed to build up 50,000 electric vehicle charging stations to help the company succeed. To date, Granholm still owns a significant amount of holdings of Proterra. Just last month, Senator John Barrasso warned the Energy Department that the secretary held up to $5 million worth of Proterra stock options. On Wednesday, Republican Representative Ralph Norman sent Granholm a letter informing her that the House Oversight Committee has opened up an inquiry into her ownership stake in Proterra for a potential conflict of interest. Granholm has to submit a number of documents to the committee to cooperate with the investigation. On February 24th, Biden ordered Granholm to assemble a report identifying risks in the supply chain for high-capacity batteries, including electric vehicle batteries, and policy recommendations. Norman wrote, "If you are carrying out that executive order as intended, your ownership of Proterra is even more troubling and raises questions about whether the company receives any preferential treatment from the Department of Energy." Another person who never misses a chance to tout Biden's agenda is Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg is infamous for not being able to fix South Bend's potholes while he was the city's mayor. In 2019, South Bend had the worst pothole situation in Indiana. Although fixing potholes shouldn't be a hard job, Buttigieg found it challenging. He tried and failed. In the end, even Domino's Pizza had stepped in. The pizza chain offered the city a $5,000 grant for filling in more potholes. Although Pete might not care much about traditional infrastructure like fixing the roads, he now frequently promotes Biden's modern infrastructure bill whenever he has a chance. Even some liberal medias are starting to find it ridiculous. A CNBC host had to interrupt Buttigieg this week.
You might as well just tell me, you need those roads to drive to free college and free child care, and therefore I want to build them so that, come on. Come on.
Well, no, I think all this fits together because, look, you can either organize your thinking around the org chart of the federal government, or you can organize it around what the lives of human beings in this country are actually like.
Then you can make that jump to everything under the sun is infrastructure. We should spend $100 trillion and give everything to everyone because that's what their life is. You can't do. We don't have the money. We don't have the wherewithal.
We do have the money, though. That's the thing. Like we abundantly do have the money because the bill is paid for, right?
Correct. Biden plans to have you pay for his everything infrastructure bill. Senate Republicans have offered a much smaller $568 billion infrastructure plan as an alternative. This proposal looks like this. The biggest portion is on roads and bridges. The $299 billion is in fact 2.6 times higher than what Biden proposed, which is $115 billion. Yet the total cost of this alternative bill is only a quarter of what Biden proposed. The GOP's plan doesn't include investments on healthcare or electric vehicles. Most Americans would be happy to support an infrastructure bill that actually is for infrastructure. Biden's nominee for ICE Director Ed Gonzalez is also under scrutiny. The Texas sheriff was recently found for pushing a false narrative that a white man murdered a 7-year-old black girl from Houston. This is after the fact that Gonzalez received a tip that the actual killers were black. Jasmine Barnes was gunned down in the back seat of her mother's car on December 30th, 2018. Gonzalez worked closely with Black Lives Matter activist Shaun King to identify Barnes' killer. On the day of the shooting, Gonzalez amplified the family's claim that the gunman was a white male in his 40s. He released a police sketch of a suspect matching that description on January 3, 2019. Actually, on the same day, King received a tip that Barnes' killers were in fact 2 black men, Eric Black Jr. and Larry Woodruff. King immediately informed Gonzalez, but the sheriff continued circulating the incorrect police sketch on social media for 2 more days. Black and Woodruff were arrested on January 6, 2019 and charged with capital murder. Gonzalez is already under scrutiny from Republicans for attempting to release 1,500 inmates from Harris County Prison, hundreds of whom were felons or charged for violent crimes. The ICE nominee is now a controversial figure for making false allegations in a racially charged incident. Are these the reason Biden nominated Gonzalez? Tom Homan, former acting director of ICE under President Trump, expressed his concerns about Gonzalez's actions as sheriff. Homan said the nomination is now drawing opposition from ICE employees. Now, before we continue, if you like our program, please hit that like button and subscribe. It'll force the YouTube algorithm to share this video to potentially thousands of people. Also, I would like to request those who have an eye opener mug, if you could post a photo of yourself with your mug into the eye opener chat room on Telegram so that we can have a special toast for you right here on the show. And for those who haven't gotten their mug that matters yet, go ahead and check them out. Your support would be greatly appreciated. Salute. The American Medical Association, AMA, says it will no longer make decisions based on merit, but rather racial justice and health equity. The AMA is the largest national organization representing physicians and medical students in the United States. While the AMA doesn't run America's healthcare system, it has significant influence over medical schools and teaching hospitals that train health professionals. It says those institutes must reject meritocracy, which it describes as a harmful narrative that ignores unequal distributed resources. According to an 86-page plan released on Tuesday, the AMA will be following a series of strategies which includes installing racial and social justice throughout its company culture, expanding medical education to include critical race theory, and working to fix its own racially discriminatory past. The association claims the concept of equity, which is to treat everyone the same, ignores the historical legacy of disinvestment and marginalization of minorities. The association says, the commonly held narrative of meritocracy is the idea that people are successful purely because of their individual effort. The association now claims such a narrative is flawed, but medical education has largely been based on it. AMA will dedicate some effort to revise such meritocratic ideals. Equality and meritocracy have been the norm in medical science and medical care. Now tell me, as a patient, would you select doctors based on their experience or the color of their skin? What AMA is doing has zero common sense. In the wake of missile attacks against Israel by Palestinian terrorist groups, Republicans in Congress are pressing Biden to immediately terminate its negotiations with Iran. Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are two widely recognized Palestinian terrorist organizations. They are both behind the ongoing rocket attacks in the region. Just days before the attacks, a jihad leader, Ramez al-Halabi, said on TV that the group's funding and weapons come from Iran. Al-Halabi said, the terrorists in Gaza and in Lebanon use Iranian weapons to strike the Zionists. We buy our weapons with Iranian money. An important part of our activity is under the supervision of Iranian experts. I am proud to say that the rockets that are used to pound Tel Aviv have an Iranian signature on them, the signature of Qasim Soleimani. Al-Halabi claims the rockets his terror group fired were approved by Soleimani, the Iranian general assassinated in a targeted American drone strike. Last Wednesday, 44 Republican senators, led by Marco Rubio, sent a letter to Biden urging him to immediately end negotiations with Iran and make clear the sanctioned relief will not be provided. Currently, members of Biden's administration are in Vienna negotiating with Iran, the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. The letter points out the sanction relief could potentially provide billions of dollars to the Iranian regime, which will no doubt contribute to its support of Hamas and other terrorist groups who target Americans and our allies. Yesterday, we discussed that Biden is likely to follow Obama's footsteps on the issues around the Middle East. Obama is sympathetic to the cause of terrorism and had failed to support Israel numerous times. If Biden doesn't stop talking with Iran, then we'll have a better idea on where Biden actually stands. In Arizona, State Senate President Karen Fann invited the Maricopa Board of Supervisors to a public hearing next Tuesday, May 18th. That's the county's official opportunity to explain the voting irregularities discovered this week, such as the deleted databases, missing ballots, and unsealed ballot bags. Yesterday, the Arizona audit team announced, as we open boxes of ballots delivered by Maricopa County, we are discovering significant discrepancies between the number of ballots therein and the batch report included in the boxes. In most of these instances, the actual number of ballots in the batch is less than the total denoted for the batch. In other words, many ballots are missing. Let's look at the examples cited in Fann's letter. The first batch listed here is missing 2 ballots. That's 1% of the 200 ballots. The second batch is missing 35 ballots out of 200. That's a discrepancy rate of nearly 18%. The third and fifth ones are missing 7% and 5% of the ballots respectively. And the fourth one, there are somehow 18 more ballots in the batch. In addition to the missing databases from the election management system, primary machine, the main database for the EMS software isn't located anywhere either. This suggests the main database for all election-related data for the 2020 election has been removed. Looks like Maricopa County has indeed mishandled the election. Yesterday afternoon, the county's Board of Supervisors called for an emergency meeting to discuss what to do with the new allegations. If Maricopa County fails to provide the information required by the subpoena, the Senate Republicans will bring the case back to court. As of yesterday, Audit Liaison Ken Bennett said the audit team has counted and examined close to 500,000 ballots. That's about 1/4 of the total votes. And according to OAN, the recount has reached duplicate ballots. Duplicate ballots are ballots adjudicated by someone other than the voter due to the ballot irregularities. As we know, Maricopa County had the unreasonably high adjudication rate of 12%, where the FEC allowable rate is only 0.0008%. The audit is trying to find out why. Arizona voters deserve an answer, and all American people deserve an answer. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out this playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me on the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on YouMaker, Gab, and Parler. Don't forget, please sign up to our email list so that we can stay in contact with each other. I want to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.